On today's show, Bond 25 finally has found its director. If Beale Street Could Talk positions itself for the Oscar race, and Bob Iger says, let's slow down on Star Wars. Also, get your tickets for Star Wars Land opening 2019. Movie Talk starts right now. Very big word from the CEO. Disney,
the boss man right there, pumping the brakes.
We're gonna slow down some Star Wars movies, but of course, Star Wars Land opening sometime next year. I'm Mark Ellis. That is Dennis Tzeng. Over there is Jeff Sneider, and we have a whole host of cool movie news and stories to get to today. So excited about this because a movie we've been talking about for a long time is Bond 25. At first, we were wondering, hey, is Daniel Craig going to come back, or are they going to cast somebody new? And then everything was set once Danny Boyle jumped on board to direct it. And then Danny Boyle wasn't directing it anymore, and we had to totally scrap all the scripts that we were thinking about doing. And who was going to direct it now? Was it going to be somebody like Yann Demange? Was it going to be Jean-Marc Vallée? Well, the answer is Cary Fukunaga. That's right, the creator, the director, person behind season 1 of True Detective, and he wrote the script for it. He was attached to direct it for a while. Then that became 2 movies. That became its own thing. But Fukunaga's also done Beasts of No Nation, a Jane Eyre adaptation, and now he's going to be at the helm for Bond 25. The movie, as we reported a couple weeks ago, has been delayed from its original release date around Thanksgiving next year. Now it's going to be February 14th, 2020. So get your tickets now, lovers, because there's not going to be a 50 Shades movie coming up. But you are going to get to see Daniel Craig, and you're going to get to see probably a lot of romance with the various Bond ladies that he may be running into on his last adventure as James Bond. Cary Fukunaga at the helm. This is a name that I think whenever you hear Cary Fukunaga, you think, oh, I like what that guy's done. I respect his work. He's dedicated to his craft, which is why this is kind of a curious decision. Not because he's not a talented director, far from it, but it's because he has a vision as to what he wants to do with his films, and it appears that the producers, Daniel Craig, who may be one of those producers, has their vision of what they want Bond 25 to be. So it's interesting that 2 factions can meet in the middle. I guess they just agreed on everything right off the bat, and that's why we have this news today. Is that right, Jeff Sneider? That Cary Fukunaga is just going to agree with the Broccoli family, Daniel Craig, on exactly what Bond 25 should be?
I mean, I woke up this morning and this was a major surprise. I did not see this one coming. I think it's great for Bond 25. I really like it. I haven't gotten a chance to see Maniac yet. Don't worry, amateur move there, Dennis. We all turn our ringers off.
Hey, look, Jeff Sneider, one of the most important people in this town, damn it. He knows to keep his ringer off. So anyway, you were saying you wake up this morning and you see this news and it's a little bit of a surprise.
It's a big surprise, but at the same time, I see what you're saying, how it's like risky in the sense that he didn't really go along with what everybody on It wanted. You know, like there were some creative differences too on True Detective with Nick Pizzolatto. It's a surprise in the sense that this guy's just going to go along and shoot the movie that they want him to shoot, but I also think it's a coup for the project.
Oh, I think it's a great name to land, Dennis, and that's why we were excited about the It project initially, and we all know how that turned out.
I'll call him
back,
great Dennis.
Movie,
give me your phone.
We're looking forward to part 2 of It, but in the meantime, now we have Cary Fukunaga, who's going to be doing this film. I think this is really exciting all of a sudden. Does this change your mood as far as how you approach Bond 25?
Yeah, definitely, because I was excited when I heard Danny Boyle was going to do the next one because I thought he was going to bring something different. I was going to ask you, Jeff, but you already answered it. Like I was like, were you surprised? Had you heard anything like this at all? Because that name was not on the list of director names that I would even think would.
Were you surprised, Dennis, that it wasn't a person who was already on a short list? Or is it like you've seen so many short lists by now? You know, it's never really relegated to those names.
Or just even a name that I would think that would fit more with it, especially what we're talking about. Like he's had creative differences before with True Detective and with It, and so like this is a franchise that's not only has Daniel Craig as a producer, it has the whole family behind it, and like so it's just one of those things where I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little skeptical. Is this going to last? Like, are we 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now going, well, Cary Fukunaga dropped out, they pushed the release date, and now they need to find someone else?
It's a fair question to ask because we could have our hearts broken on Valentine's Day 2020 if Cary Fukunaga departs the project. Because, Jeff, I believe you were on the show when we were talking about Danny Boyle's exit, and so we're trying to throw names as to who could take the place, and we either said that it's going to be one of those on the short list, like a Yann Demange, like a Jean-Marc Vallée, or it's somebody who has less clout, who's a young up-and-comer, because the studio can tell them what kind of movie they want to make. That's not going to be the case with Fukunaga, right?
I can't imagine that it will be, but I'm sure that they must be on some kind of like the same page creatively for him to not only be offered this job, but for him to accept it. You know, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's just going to sacrifice his vision to service someone else. So, you know, maybe he's bringing something to the table or adding on that Purvis and Wade script that there's been a lot of questions about, because it's like they threw it out and now they're going back to it, right?
I think that this news also indicates that Daniel Craig is hell bent on being James Bond one more time. You know, because I think that he had all the right in the world to just be like, oh, we can't even find a director at this point. We could scrap everything and I could move on. They could have a new Bond and I can go on with the rest of my career. Doesn't this show you guys that he really wants another crack at Bond and he wants to go off on a high note?
Or he likes money. Likes a lot of money.
Fair point too.
He needs a proper send off. I felt like the last movie was underwhelming, right?
Yeah.
You know, like Daniel Craig is a really good Bond who actually, I think, elevated the entire franchise. It was kind of just like a jokey whatever to me, those Pierce Brosnan movies. I didn't grow up a big Bond guy, but Daniel Craig has really brought me around on the franchise to the point where I look forward to those now. I think he needs a proper send-off.
I think GoldenEye, when I saw it when I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, this feels like James Bond. And then from there, those movies, you're right, they just got jokier and more like tongue-in-cheek and just kind of wink and nod. And then Daniel Craig comes in. And it's like we get Jason Bourne in a tuxedo. And it was awesome. Casino Royale might be my favorite Bond movie of all time. And then Quantum of Solace was whatever. Back in a big way with Skyfall, not so much with Spectre. So what is Cary Fukunaga going to bring to this movie? Let's just think about the style that we've seen him do in something like True Detective or Jane Eyre or Beasts of No Nation. How is he going to leave his own stamp on the James Bond franchise, Dennis?
Well, that's tough to answer because with Beasts of No Nation and True Detective, those are much more serious things. I mean, yeah, Bond is more serious than it used to be, but still, people are there to watch it for the action, for some of the dialogue, some of the cool set pieces, the characters. That we haven't really seen from Cary Fukunaga. The stuff that he's done, we might have seen that more if we had seen the It film that he'd done, but we didn't see that. So this would be his first stab at something this high budget, a franchise. So it's tough to say. I mean, he brings a lot of, you know, in True Detective, he was able to get the tone right, the atmosphere right, tension. He does a slow build. So that's, I don't know, Bond, I don't know if that's going to be the right fit, but I'm pretty sure he's obviously a talented director. So I think he can kind of move in towards what Bond already is.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say the same thing about Sam Mendes, too, who did the last two Bond movies,
right.
Jeff, is that, I mean, it's not like those Bond movies feel like Revolutionary Road. It's something totally different. But with Danny Boyle, you were wondering, well, is this going to feel like a Danny Boyle movie more than a James Bond movie? Is there any fear of that with Cary Fukunaga, or do you think that's a smart play to make it feel like the tone of, say, a True Detective?
I think he has a really sophisticated eye. I think he'll probably bring some kind of lyricism to it, the way he has with
those are some good... This is some good buzzwords.
Good adjectives, yeah.
Wow, lyricism, sophisticated eye.
Yeah,
woo, getting hot.
You know, I like he's an art house director in my mind, but I also know that he's capable of doing a big muscular action sequence. If you judge by like that gorgeous tracking shot that's in the middle of the first season of True Detective. Here's my question: like, you know, what if he got McConaughey or Woody to play like a Bond villain? Who would you rather see, McConaughey or Woody?
Oh man, well we've seen Woody be a pretty good villain in the Planet of the Apes movie.
Yeah.
McConaughey can go villain, but after seeing his turn in the dark, I don't know what it was, like some weird twitch with his accent that he was doing in that movie. It just bothered the crap out of me. So I think I'd rather take Woody as a villain over Matthew McConaughey. How you lean on that question?
Yeah, same here. Just because we've seen Woody do it before and do it very, very well. He brings an intimidating presence. I know some people didn't like this movie, but I liked Out of the Furnace, and he was, to me, he was very intimidating in that film.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to go back to a Russian villain or what. Like, I don't know. That would just be, I could see Woody doing a Russian accent, but I don't know what the story of this is ultimately going to be or how Cary Fukunaga is going to impact it. Like, you know, what he's bringing to the table or from a script standpoint, or whether he's like everything's kind of already in place and they know what they want to do and they just need somebody to go and shoot it.
Yeah, so I mean, you got Woody Harrelson as a bad guy in Planet of the Apes. You got him in Out of the Furnace. You have him. He was kind of a dickish older brother in Ed TV, and of course, we all know that he was stealing money from the bar in Boston far back as Cheers.
Who else has Fukunaga worked with? Obviously Emma Stone and Jonah Hill now for Maniac, but neither of them really scream. Bond to me.
But and also not just who he's worked with, but also versatility with Jane Eyre and then Beasts of No Nation. So he's got a pretty impressive resume as far as breadth of diversity.
He was going to cast Will Poulter as Pennywise in his It. I wonder if Will Poulter could be like a young agent in this. I don't know. He's British.
Think Will Poulter would have made a fantastic Pennywise, but I don't know if Will Poulter can do that creepy eye thing that Sarsgaard just knocks out of the park. So we will wait for it too, and obviously we're going to wait for Bond 25. Mark your calendars, everybody. February 14th, 2020. Start making the pitch to your girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse right now. We move on to some news coming out of the Star Wars camp from the head cheese himself. CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, was recently interviewed by THR, and among the topics they touched on was the release of the Star Wars movies recently and how that might impact how they look at Star Wars releases going forward. And Iger said that it might be time to slow down a little bit. He said he made the timing decision, so he took all the brunt of the criticism. And he says, as I look back, I think the mistake I made, I take the blame, was a little too much too fast. You can expect some slowdown, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make films. He said JJ is busy making episode 9. They have creative entities, including Benioff and Weiss, who are developing sagas of their own, which they have not been specific about, and he noted that too. And then they're going to start making decisions about what comes next after JJ's, and he said they're going to do that sooner rather than later. But as far as the overall slowdown, he said they're going to be a little more careful about volume and timing. And again, to his credit, he took the blame, saying the buck stops here on that. I think that this is a no-brainer if you're talking to shareholders or you're talking to fans that, hey, maybe we threw a little bit too much at you, too fast. Dennis, do you agree with that, though? Or do you think that it wasn't a matter of too much too fast? It was just we didn't get the quality of movie, or at least films that weren't controversial, because we clearly got movies that were controversial as far as Solo, whether they should be made in the first place, and with Last Jedi, how those movies ended up hitting the fans. Do you think it was too much too fast, or just this particular movies themselves didn't land?
No, I think it was a case of too much too fast. And we've placed a lot of the blame on Kathleen Kennedy, and maybe now we should blame Bob Iger, because he says that a lot of this stuff was his decision to push forward, that if JJ and Kathleen wanted to take some more time with Force Awakens, and they because with quality, not always, but it's always a good idea to have more time with things. And so if he's saying, no, we have to have this movie at this time, then sometimes that the quality gets diminished because they have to rush out and do it. So I do like that he made these statements. I do like that he takes the responsibility for it, and I do think it was too much too fast. We didn't need another. We just had Last Jedi. We had all the problems with Solo, and still because I remember when they replaced Lord and Miller with Ron Howard, I was like, okay, well, they're going to delay it. They're going to push it back into the winter. There's no episode movie anyways, so why not push it there? And yet they still move forward with that May release date, which I just thought it was too ambitious.
Yeah, Jeff, it's impossible to have foresight of this magnitude where you see the fan division for The Last Jedi. You see all the problems on Solo. You can't really tell, is it a good idea if we can get this movie out in May to do it, or should we hold it until next Christmas? Is there a particular movie of those two that you think Bob Iger is more referring to that is making this statement to slow down the movies?
I mean, so, regardless of what you want to say about The Last Jedi, whether you like it or not, it performed fine, I thought. Solo was a black eye for them, so I think that is what he's probably referring to. Studios in general make a habit of rushing to meet a release date. This is like the one franchise where you don't have to rush, because no matter where you put it, it's going to make money. You could put it in the middle of January, it's going to make $1 billion. So I don't understand when they rush big franchises like that. Transformers did not rush a movie out every year. It was every other year. Sometimes,
and we weren't even we wouldn't call that high quality.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying, I think you could do a Star Wars movie every other year and you'd be fine. I don't know what the fear is and why they feel like this need to have a movie out every year.
Well, I think it's because they don't want to wait longer than 2 years for episodic films, right? We can all agree with that we're never going to go back to the make a movie, episode 10, wait wait 3 years till episode 11 like we did with the classic
What's
trilogy.
wrong with that, though? Let me.
I don't
ask
think
you.
anything's wrong with that. I actually love that. But I think that it's just not going to happen in the modern era of Disney, of Star Wars, of this cash cow. I think slowing things down is having those movies come out every other year. So I don't see a situation where you have Benioff and Weiss making movies. He didn't mention anything about Ryan Johnson's trilogy, which I thought was very interesting. And again, it's one quote, so maybe he's trying to get through this as fast as possible. But the name Ryan Johnson did not come up, who does apparently still have a trilogy about Star Wars on his own. I can't imagine they're going to delay. It's going to be a 3-year window between episodic movies. Again, I don't have a problem with that because I love the tantric buildup to a Star Wars episodic movie. Do you see them? Do you see them going to the 3 years if they're going to make episode 10, 11, and 12?
I mean, I don't know what kind of pressure they're going to be under. That's really what it comes down to. Do they need a gigantic anchor in the middle of December every year or every other year? I don't really know. The Ryan Johnson thing is interesting. I wouldn't read too much into the quote, but I think that as fun as like shooting The Last Jedi, as fun as that experience may have been for him, I think it ultimately took a toll. So I don't know how eager he would be to jump back in with the trilogy. And Benioff and Weiss, who knows what to make of that?
But Dennis, it doesn't seem like all these quotes. I know that you were talking about how you agree that he wanted to slow down anyway, but if Solo crushed at the box office and everybody universally loved it, we would not be having this conversation, and he would not need to give these quotes. So do you really see them slowing down, or do you see them making a couple great movies and then all of a sudden revving the engine back up and cranking multiple? Because it's not just films that are coming out. They have the streaming service, Favreau's Star Wars series. We've got to have other Star Wars series premiere on that platform. So still going to be a whole lot of Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, that's why I think you have that room to separate from having the movies come out as often. I don't mind the episodic films coming out every other year. What I'd like to have, though, is a break in the trilogy. I don't want, so when 9 comes out, comes out, and that ends that trilogy.
You want to take a breath from that?
Yes, I want a few-year break from that so they can plan. This is my biggest complaint about the new trilogy. While I still enjoy the films, I think that they were rushed. The fact that you have different writers and different, directors for these. I thought they should Lord of the Rings this thing, right? Like they planned ahead and said, okay, this is what's going to happen in episode 7, 8, 9. Right. Whether or not you want the same director or not, fine. But they should have had the story written out. I don't like hearing Ryan Johnson taking the baton from J.J. Abrams, and then now the baton's tossed back to J.J. Abrams. Okay, well, now I'm going to take what he did, and I'm going to work this. It should be one story, cohesive story that has a through point and themes all throughout. And then in order to do that, you need to take that break after 9, and then figure out what you're going to do. Then when you announce when the episode 10, 11, 12 come out, that's fine to have them every other year.
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't been able to lock down exactly why this is, but it is the truth, is that the Marvel movies, the MCU, you can keep knocking those movies out and people are going to keep seeing them. And it's amazing to me. And I think that that's what Iger's looking at, is he's saying that, well, because we could do that with the MCU, why shouldn't we be able to do that with Star Wars movies? I don't know if it has all to do with the quality of The Last Jedi and Solo, but Black Panther came out in February, Infinity War came out in April, and people were lining up to see both of them. They could not get enough. For whatever reason with Star Wars, if you starve the fans a little bit and you lead them on, you can release any Star Wars movie. If we hadn't gotten a Star Wars movie for a couple of years and Solo came out, I think it would have performed a lot better.
There's going to be other Star Wars stuff now on the streaming service, though, to hold our attention so that the brand doesn't go cold.
Yeah.
That's what they're really afraid of.
Opening next year too.
Right? Yeah, so that's what they're really afraid of, is letting the brand sort of cool off. So I feel like now that they have these streaming service properties set in the Star Wars world or whatever, they won't necessarily have to feel the need to deliver a Star Wars movie every single year.
And I also think Star Wars as a franchise is more scrutinized than the MCU. You have to, I know there's a lot of people here watching that are big fans that read the comics. Most of the people that are watching the MCU films never read a comic book in their life, okay? All these people who watch it, they know them from watching these movies. Star Wars is a different story. It doesn't come from comic books or a book. It comes from the movies before. So all the fans are very precious about every little thing. So you have to be a lot more careful.
It's a fair point, is that as much as people love 2008's Iron Man, it's hard to be as precious about that movie as it is the original trilogy of Star Wars. So, Dennis, making a good call here. And Dennis also made a call to have us play some games on Twitch tomorrow. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you for a little bit because we have some Jackbox we're going to be twitching tomorrow. Well, you can follow us on Twitch at Collider TV, I believe, is the
Collider Video. It's
twitch.tv/Collider
Video. Yeah, we're going to play a bunch of games from the Jackbox Party Pack number 3. You can sign up. There's going to be a room code up on the twitch.tv Collider Video so that you can come and check out what we're doing. We're going to have a bunch of us playing a lot of these games. There's like these trivia games. There's a trivia murder mystery game. I haven't played these games yet, but apparently they're a lot of fun. This is from the same creator as You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, you say trivia games, you piqued my interest.
Yes.
So anybody around the studio who's around here can just pop in and play for a
I
little
want in
bit?
on that murder mystery one, Dennis.
Yeah.
I love murder mysteries.
Yeah. So do I. So yeah, just check that out.
Be
And
great if all the
we'll
lights
be
went
up
out in
there.
the studio right now. Come up. I got a knife in my back. I'm not sure how I'm going to be at Twitch Trivia, but I've been doing stand-up for a while. I don't even know if I'm good at it. But you guys can check me out in New York City. I'm going to be there October 5th telling jokes during New York Comic Con. You can get tickets at markellislive.com. Use promo code Schmoes. It's the new New York Comedy Club in the East Village. Very excited about that. Some special guests going to be joining me. Grab your tickets right now before they sell out. Our next story involves Michael B. Jordan. He's going to be playing an iconic character of sorts. Not Superman just yet, but it is going to be Tom Clancy's hero, John Clark. John Clark, Jack Ryan, John Clark, they're pretty stock names. They do extraordinary things. This is the Tom Clancy character who has not yet gotten a franchise, but Variety is reporting that Paramount has tapped Jordan to play the hero in a new series. It's 2 movies that they're developing for the character with an origin story planned for an adaptation of Without Remorse. And then that's followed up by a sequel based on Rainbow Six. So we've been talking about Rainbow Six and Tom Clancy video games in general getting the big screen treatment, with John Clark being the hero that we're following, Michael B. Jordan playing him. Dennis, the name Tom Clancy still has some clout.
Yes.
Michael B. Jordan obviously does. Jack Ryan doing pretty well on that streaming service, Amazon. So this makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to get that Rainbow Six movie off the ground for a long time. I remember playing that game. I think they had approached Ryan Reynolds to possibly play this role as well. It's in that Clancy universe. He crosses paths with Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan is supposed to be like a CIA analyst, and where this John Clark is actually, more of an action guy.
Which is crazy to me, because if Jack Ryan is just like the bookworm walking around the city, he's like, fine, I'll go in the field if I have to. John Clark is actually good at this stuff. Look out, bad guys.
I mean, I've played Rainbow Six before, and I do vaguely remember his character, but it didn't stand out to me. I'm still the Tom Clancy one I'm looking for is Splinter Cell. Sam Fisher, that character.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, I want to see that movie. It's cool that they're moving forward with this. Maybe if this is successful, then they'll move on to Splinter Cell, which they've also been talking about for a long, long time. But Michael B. Jordan, we know he can play that action role. He, beefed up for both Creed and Black Panther, so we know he'll be able to handle the action, no problem.
Yeah, and producer some note too, Akiva Goldsman, who's done the Transformers movies, or at least the new Transformers universe. He's going to be kind of the lead producer on this. Jeff, what do you read about this project? What are you hearing about it so far?
I think this is a great call for Michael B. Jordan. I think he needs his own action franchise. I mean, yes, Creed's a fight franchise, but even then, people still look at those movies. So at least some people I know look at them as Rocky movies. And Black Panther wasn't his movie either. So I think this is actually the right call, doing like something from the Tom Clancy oeuvre. The only thing that gives me pause, the big red flag, is the presence of Akiva Goldsman as the producer. I mean, he just does not have a good track record of late. I think that this could really work for Paramount, though. It's like a mid-budget franchise in that Jack Reacher budget range. It just has to be better. It has to be more like the first Jack Reacher than the last one.
Yes, the last one was terrible. Which, Tom Cruise hasn't made that many terrible movies. I'd say most of them are pretty good. And I like the first Jack Reacher, and that second was,
First Jack Reacher is a little ridiculous, too.
But it's fun, though.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
like
fun.
it. And if Michael B. Jordan can have a character like that, or a franchise like that, maybe a little bit smarter, brainier, whatever, I think this could work. What if he crossed paths with Chris Pine, who was the last Jack Ryan, and I mean, besides small screen
John
Krasinski, but Chris Pine was the last big screen Jack Ryan. The movie wasn't good, and no one has ever talked about a sequel for it, but what if they brought him back? That's an interesting pairing.
Tough thing about that Jack Reacher is he leaves his wallet at a restaurant. He can't retrieve it. You know why? Because Jack Reacher 2 never go back. He doesn't ever go back. Jack Reacher never ever
Keep
goes
moving
back.
forward.
He just keeps going forward. Will John Clark be the same? According to the description, he's an ex-Navy SEAL turned operations officer for the CIA. You don't want to get on the wrong side of that. That's a Navy SEAL, CIA operations officer. He's got it in here. He's got it in here. He's got it right here. These are going to be exciting movies. Don't quite have a release date just yet, but Michael B. Jordan playing this, I think I smell a new franchise is going to be a hit.
I like this character too, right? Wasn't he who played him in the other movies? Liev Schreiber was in the Affleck one.
William Dafoe was.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good pull on that. I had no idea.
But Kiva Goldsman,
that's the
he's
Willem Dafoe character from Clear and Present Danger?
I think it is, yeah.
He's
And-
just
and
like
Liev Schreiber.
that's my dream. It's because he's just chilling in some bar in South America in the corner, and he just knows he can kill everybody in the room just by snapping his fingers. Somebody wants to come talk to him. You're going to be nervous when you do it. He's drinking a Corona. The next thing you know, he's leading a team of snipers.
I don't know how the character was written in the Tom Clancy books, but it is a case of switching the race of the character. It's colorblind casting since he was played by white guys in the past. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Willem Dafoe no more. Michael B. Jordan enters. Looking forward to Creed 2, and now these John Clark movies. Okay, well, we have a new trailer that we're going to get to in just a little bit. Before we get to the new trailer or this Jamie Foxx news, I want to remind you guys that we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk and ask us about any of the topics we're talking about here today. Whatever's on your mind, we're here for your viewing and listening pleasure. Our next story, Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are going to star in a Netflix science fiction movie from the directors of Catfish. We were talking about this off air. I hadn't heard of Catfish as far as the movie. I didn't realize that the term catfishing, I know what the term catfishing is, probably happened to me a number of times, is that I didn't know that it started with this movie. The directors, Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. So they're making now this untitled, as of right now, sci-fi movie with these two big stars. Pretty cool premise. The protagonist is believed to be a teenage actress of color. She finds herself dealing the drug to help care for her family. It's a drug epidemic, and it gives the people a range of superpowers. So you're dealing the drug to, kind of a Robin Hood situation, trying to do some good, even with bad means. And then we enter Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Jeff Sneider, how does this project hit you?
I think it sounds really cool. I really like the premise of this one. Yeah, it's a gritty superhero movie. It's another superhero movie, but at least it's like original. Doesn't seem to be based on anything. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like a cop who patrols the streets for this drug, and then realizes if he really wants to help, he needs to take the drug himself. And so, yeah, they're sort of co-starring, but the lead is that young black girl. I suppose they could go Latina for her, but I think they're looking for a young black actress. And the movie will really hinge on her shoulders, but you can't have a better supporting cast or co-stars than Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's played a cop before, and Jamie Foxx playing a family man who was just distraught after a tragedy in his own family, so he's trying to trace the supply line. It sounds like that movie Rush with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. Remember that movie Rush? Guy gets addicted to drugs in the early 90s.
Jason
Tears
Patrick.
in Heaven. Yeah. Anyway, let's not talk about Rush.
Superheroes.
Not the band, not the movie. Let's talk about this film. Doesn't have a title yet, Dennis. You excited to watch it regardless on Netflix?
Sure. I mean, it's one of those things where now that when Will Smith and Joel Edgerton did that movie Bright on Netflix, even though it had mixed reviews, it just kind of opened the floodgates because other actors were like, oh, wow, Will Smith did a movie on Netflix. And then now you have this rush of other people. You have the Roma coming out on Netflix as well. So it's just another thing Netflix is trying to up, because they already have a good reputation for doing television series and docu-series and documentaries, but their original movie stuff has been kind of more maligned, and so they're just trying to get into that game. And I think these two actors definitely will bring a lot more kind of a better reputation for this.
Netflix wants to beat the studios at their own game. They want to be making these big tentpole movies. That's why they're doing the Michael Bay, Ryan Reynolds movie, which it has like $100 million budget or something. I don't think that this will be on that scale or even the scale of Bright. But again, at that mid-budget level, it's a Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie. I think that's an interesting move for both of them, doing a Netflix movie, and good on Netflix for getting those guys to come over there.
Yeah, this one feels, just for me, the premise, it feels more like a one-off than something like the Michael Bay film would, or like what Bright ended up being, where, because eventually Netflix is going to want to have franchises where they have sequels to their movies based on what the property is. This doesn't feel like that, which is not a criticism of it at all. We like original programming. We like to see original sci-fi out there. This is clearly going to be that, maybe more of a personal story than you're used to with some of the big sci-fi blockbusters you go see in movie theaters. Again, we don't have a release date or a title just yet, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx have signed on for the new Netflix sci-fi thriller picture. Our last story is a trailer, and it's for If Beale Street Could Talk. It's a movie that is already getting a lot of awards buzz coming off of its screenings at the Toronto International Film Festival. I was at one of those screenings. I saw the movie. It's tremendous. It certainly is a top contender for all of the awards that you're going to see at TV shows later on this year and at the Oscars next year. The movie comes out November 30th, I believe. So it's right around that Thanksgiving time, that classic, hey, we think this is an Oscar movie kind of contender. And it's Barry Jenkins' follow-up to Moonlight, based on James Baldwin's novel. I think this has everything going for it. It's an amazing emotional piece. Dennis, you've not seen the movie yet, but you caught this trailer. What does this trailer do for you?
I like the trailer all right, but it's more about who's behind it. Because, I mean, even when Moonlight came out with their trailer, it's not like I saw that trailer and was like, oh man, I've got to see that movie. But it was more the buzz that pushed me to go see it. And then obviously it was one of the best movies of the year. It won the Oscar. So I think this is going to be the same way with me, where I watch the trailer, I enjoy, I'm interested, but it's not like I'm not going over the moon for it. I'm just going to wait and see what people like yourself saying, oh, it was really good, hear the buzz. And then obviously when I see the film, I'll probably be much more. I think this type of story just doesn't lend itself to a trailer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're looking for like explosions in a world or something like that, but it certainly is going to advertise the movie, and I think you're right. It does a good job of selling what this story is, and you're looking at the people behind it who are telling the story. It's a powerful piece. Jeff, when I saw this at TIFF, and I pretty much have this and If a Star Is Born as my two front runners right now, with Green Book trying to edge in there somewhere for a Best Picture, Best Screenplay nomination. Did you see the trailer? Did you need to see it? Because I'm pretty sure you saw the movie as well.
I saw the movie. I did watch the trailer. I think that the trailer is better than the first trailer. I think it did a better job of selling the emotion. And if you'll notice, there's a lot more footage from the scene between the two families. Remember that scene, Mark?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the best scene in the movie. And the trailer number 2 definitely had a lot from that scene, which I think is smart. You have to lead with your best foot forward.
It's a powerful scene.
I think that this trailer probably could have benefited from a critical quote or two out of the festivals. Go to one of those rave reviews that they got and slap some critics on it. And I don't know whether you want like a big mainstream critic or maybe try to get more critics of color and use those voices to sell the movie.
Well, they certainly have the opportunity to, because the Toronto International Film Festival had they had diversity panels there, and they really made an effort to include more critics, people of color, women of color, that could attend the festival and watch all these movies. So it's a good point you make, is that you should have quotes like that up there. I don't know if that's what this trailer wanted to do, because to Dennis's point, it's almost like this is trying to do a lot of the same thing the first one did, which is just tell a story and make us feel like we're so sucked in this world that we're not even watching a movie, that we're seeing a slice of life.
And it is a slice of life. I thought the movie could have been better, frankly. I didn't sweep me up in its emotional current, but I totally understand how some audiences, like, it will like cast a spell over them. It is a very romantic film. The performances are all good. Nobody really stood out for me. I wanted a little bit more from Regina King in her big climactic scene. But if anybody is going to get nominated, I think it's her. Barry Jenkins could totally be nominated. The cinematography is gorgeous. The score is gorgeous. It just didn't move me like other films, including Moonlight.
I thought Kiki Lane and Coleman Domingo were stand. I mean, there isn't a bad cast in the movie, but I think those two, keep your eye on them. We move on to live Twitter questions, but before we do that, I want to remind you all that we're going to have a new episode of TV Talk. Josh McCouga, Thad Williams, talking all things, the latest and greatest in the world of television. Movie Review Talk, hosted by Scott Mantz, a fellow TIFF attendee. That's going to be at 10 a.m. PST. Tomorrow, Collider Games podcast is also up. We have a whole lot of channels here you can check out, not just Collider Video, Collider Sports, Collider Games, Collider Quick, and we have a new Schmoedown that's going to be dropping tomorrow as well. All right. Here we go. Live Twitter questions. First Twitter question. Hey, Mark, can we get some AC in the studio? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not to me, Mark. That's to somebody else. I'm like patting my forehead like I'm a Southern drunk lawyer in the 1800s. Like, Your Honor, my client, clearly. Chris Woodburn says, with Halloween getting a 40th anniversary re-release into theaters, what's a film you'd also like to see that you've not seen in theaters? Good question from C-Dub, kicking us off here.
That's tough.
It's tough. I mean,
Movie you've never seen in a movie theater. Love to check it out. For example, when we did that Collider screening last year, Back to the Future, I mean, I've seen that movie 100 times already. That movie blew me away on the big screen. It was so awesome to finally get a chance to check it out like that.
I'm just gonna go Home Alone. I don't know.
You're just gonna go home?
Wait, you know what? Hold on. I must have.
Giving you the keys to a movie theater.
I must have seen Home Alone when I was a kid. So maybe I just am not consciously remembering that theatrical experience. So I got to before I was a kid, huh? 80s and 70s. It would have been cool to see the original Rocky actually in a theater. I've never seen it on a big screen.
My buddy who I was overseas with this past weekend, Steve Simone, he's from Philadelphia, and he tells the story when he was a kid. His dad took him and his brothers to go see Rocky IV, which is where Rocky fights Drago, and then that's kind of how we get Creed 2. And he said that the crowd at the end of the movie, the movie theater audience stood up and cheered and went crazy and gave the movie a standing ovation. That's how powerful that movie was in a theater in the mid-'80s. Dennis, I can't promise you Rocky IV vibes from the mid-'80s, but I can promise you any movie that you've not seen in a theater, here's your golden ticket. Which one do you want to check out?
Oh, this one's tough. I mean, I've gotten to see some of my favorite movies in the theater, like Lawrence of Arabia. They've brought back many times, and they had different like restorations. I've seen Goodfellas in the theater. Maybe City of God. I actually did not see that in the theater. I saw that on DVD when it came out, and then obviously Blu-ray later. I think seeing something like that would have been quite an experience.
Yeah, I would say one that I missed, they were doing a run for the 50th anniversary, is 2001: A Space Odyssey. They were showing it in a number of different formats. I know it was playing at ArcLight. I think it was playing at the AMC too.
Out.
And I missed it. And I heard it was just amazing people all over again. They were probably doing illicit substances before they went into the theater. Whatever. Don't do drugs, kids. And then I would also say Jaws, just because I'm such a huge fan of Jaws, and any story that can get me on TNT on a Saturday afternoon again and again and again is probably going to be able to capture my attention on the big screen too. Sean Y is next, and he says, with Star Wars slowing down, does that make it more likely or less likely for an Obi-Wan film?
I think it makes it less likely.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah. Less likely.
Unless they decide to make the bold play to say, oh, yeah, don't worry, fans, you're getting your Obi-Wan movie on our streaming service. And it debuts there instead of I'm not saying I want it, but be a bold play.
It would be. And I definitely think they will have original movies eventually on that streaming service. But I think it's less because they were looking at that Solo spin-off movie as like kind of the barometer of, how much time and money they were going to invest in these spin-off movies, because they did well with Rogue One, not so much with Solo, and so I think they're like, oh, let's hold the horses on that one.
So no Obi-Wan movie for you in the near future, Sneider? Would that be the movie?
It wouldn't shock me, but at the same time, I just don't know why it's necessary. Like, why do we need all these origin stories and delving into characters' backstories? Like, I don't know.
I don't think it's the most necessary movie either, and I've been on record as saying that I kind of like the Obi-Wan lore, but if you watch Star Wars Rebels, kind of like they've shown the scraps that Obi-Wan's gotten into over the years, and pretty recently leading up to A New Hope, it was him and Darth Maul. So, I mean, again, it's the same thing about Solo, is that I didn't need a Solo movie or necessarily want a Solo movie, but the movie comes out, Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm going to get excited to go see the movie, so... it could be Boba Fett and Salacious Crumb on a road trip, and I'm going to want to go see it. And if that's the movie that sells the streaming service, you got your membership right here, Disney. Our next question comes from Tronin. It says, can the general audience attend festivals like TIFF? TIFF was literally the first film festival I've ever been to, so I know with that one, yes, you can. You have to buy a badge, and it's not too crazy expensive. The real tough thing for general audiences is that you can go to TIFF. You're going to be waiting in line for a while, especially if it's a premium movie or one that everybody wants to see. So if you want to see something like First Man, If Beale Street Could Talk, one of the big name movies that's coming out, It's going to take a little bit out of your pocketbook and a lot of your time. Might be worthwhile, though, so you can brag to all your friends you saw this movie months before it came out. Jeff, do you know what the situation is for like a Cannes or a Venice? Does the general audience get to go to those, or is that all invite only?
I am not sure about the overseas festivals. The public does have an opportunity to purchase tickets to Toronto screenings, to Sundance screenings, especially locals. Like if you actually live near Sundance or in the state of Utah, I believe that you are able to purchase tickets even before the general public, or there are special screenings for locals, because it is a big imposition on the community as much as these festivals financially benefit the cities that they're in. It's a big imposition, to have all this extra traffic, etc. So I would just say it's expensive. Like if you have a badge, you can go up to a festival and see 30 movies in a week, which justifies the cost. But if you're flying up to Toronto to see 2 or 3 movies that you can get tickets for, I don't know if that's totally worth it.
Dennis, you've been to any film festivals?
Yeah,
you recommend it?
Mostly local ones, and yeah, those are open to public. But I mean, it's the tickets for the premium movies that everyone wants to see. You're one of many, so your chances of getting a ticket aren't that great. So.
Okay, well, a bit of late-breaking news that just got sent to me from Perry Nemiroff is this from The Hollywood Reporter, is that Birds of Prey is looking to round out its cast, and they're looking at some bigger actress names such as Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Justina Machado. They're all testing for the DC film right now. They're looking to cast the role of Black Canary and Huntress. So those are some actresses clearly of note that we're aware of in the past, and I think that they would all make a fine addition to the Birds of Prey movie. Jeff, is this something that's come down your pike, or is this news to you as well? Do you have a front runner?
Yeah, no, I really haven't been tracking Birds of Prey, if only because I'm not terribly familiar with the characters in it, like Huntress and Black Canary. I know I feel like there's a bunch of canaries in the DC world. I don't know. These actresses are all pretty solid. Gugu Mbatha-Raw has been on that verge of superstardom for some time. I don't think that she has found the right vehicle that's fully connected. But this could certainly be the one. She'd be a smart pick. Maggie Qualley and Kristen Milioti, they're on that precipice. They're up and coming actresses. I guess Maggie Qualley is a little bit younger, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead, they'd all be good.
And it just shows that DC is excited about this Birds of Prey movies. If for whatever else is going on with DC or the DCEU, is that this thing is a full go. So Henry Cavill, back of the line. We don't know what's happening with Superman, but we know Birds of Prey is coming full steam ahead, and I'm excited about it. Okay, let's do one more question, then we'll get out of here. Kristen Offrio wants to talk Edgar Wright. Okay. He says, what do you want to see him do next? What do you want to see celebrated filmmaker Edgar Wright do with his next project? Do you want to see him, A, take another shot at a franchise picture? Do you want to see him, B, make another film with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost? Or C, make something completely original?
Something completely original.
Something completely original, no Simon Pegg, no Nick Frost for Dennis.
I mean, they can be in it, but maybe do something that's different than Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead, or what was the last one called? End of the World?
At World's End.
At World's End.
Yeah.
If they're in it, maybe make something different.
The World's End. At World's End was Pirates of the Caribbean.
So yeah, I really liked Baby Driver. It's unfortunate his Ant-Man movie didn't get off the ground, but maybe, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people that can do a lot of these franchise films. He can do some original stuff.
Yeah, Jeff, Edgar Wright, one of those names that was bandied around a little bit when we heard Danny Boyle was leaving.
It would have been cool.
25. That would have been cool. I think I agree with Dennis. I love the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movies. I think I'd rather see something completely original. If you can remind me, the guy did Baby Driver, and I thought that movie was fantastic. So let's see something else that's completely original.
I got a couple ideas for Edgar Wright. I would like to see him do a horror movie, whether it's taking an established property like a Halloween, the way David Gordon Green is with this reboot, putting his own spin on it, or doing a complete original like Cabin in the Woods and Bad Times at El Royale coming up. The other thing is a biopic. I'd like to see Edgar Wright's take on a biopic. I think he could make a really interesting one given the right subject, if it was like an interesting enough guy.
All right. Well, we say goodbye to you here, but not before we ask Maggie Ledbetter's question. She says both Bond villains have had creative names in the past. If you could name a Bond villain for Bond 25, what would you name the Bond villain? Any ideas before we say goodnight?
I do. Dennis,
what do you got?
I do not have
All right.
one.
Midnight Burgundy.
Midnight Burgundy.
Yep, Midnight Burgundy.
Wow. All right. Dennis, nothing for you?
No.
I was going to go with a funny one like Whopper McNugget, but I think a really good name for a Bond villain, baby carrots. You walk around, you eat carrots, and havoc follows you wherever you go. That is all the time we have for Collider Movie Talk today and for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you catch Movie Talk 4 p.m. every Monday through Thursday, or you can check out the podcast at any time on Apple Podcasts or Podcasts One. I want to thank Dennis Tzeng and Midnight Burgundy, Jeff Sneider. I am merely Mark Ellis. See you guys at the Comedy Store this weekend for Josh McCouga's big Battle Buddy show on Sunday. You get tickets at markellislive.com. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.